When I saw it, yeah, I saw it. I was like, oh, that's a very interesting.
All right, so let's keep trucking here with our Necromancer, blah, 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 blah stuff. And so what our goal here today is to finish kind of fleshing this out. And then we want to create, how many of you have ever seen like in wrestling, kind of like a battle royale type thing where they put a whole bunch of people in the ring at once and then, you see who comes out as the final survivor? So we're going to attempt to test our game balance here a little bit by creating a class that's going to, we'll throw one ninja, one warrior, one necromancer, and one wizard into a cage, tell them to fight to the death, and we'll see who comes out on top. Go ahead. I don't know. Did I?
No, you didn't.
Oh. Yeah, if I ever forget that, just maybe message me earlier, because it only takes me 2 seconds to put it up. Look at that. Done. All right. So we already started writing a little bit. We wrote this thing called Get Damage. We decided that a generic person, which we don't intend to ever, throw a punch, but a generic person would throw their strength. What's the double slash again? No, let's get better answers. We had the wrong answer of remainder last time. I think from Noah. Nailed it. Go ahead.
So it defines it number wholly to not a decimal number, but like a whole number.
Okay, so it's integer division, right? So if I divided 5 by 2 with a double slash, I would get a 2. If I divided 5 by 2 with a single slash, I get a 2.5. Make sense? All right, so we're just going to say that a normal human being, if they're just a person, they're going to throw a punch based on their strength divided by either 2 or 3. So some kind of weak-ish attack. Here's our magic user. Again, we don't intend to ever have a generic magic user, but if we were, we would do a base of get damage, their intelligence divided by 3 or 4. Okay, so something like that. Okay, now let me just jump down to like a necromancer. Or did we do it for wizard? Yeah, we did it for wizard. So for a wizard, we have get damage. And what we do is we say, what's this code right here for? What's that if statement? What's the purpose of that if statement? What am I trying to accomplish there? Go ahead.
So then there's some penalty.
Okay, well, what's the penalty?
Penalty is the best thing. You have, in order to actually, the wizard to adequately.
Okay, so I have a.
And then they can't use mana, then they're forced to just use 100.
Yeah, which we just decided does no damage. So this question right here is saying, what's the cost for a wizard to attack? How much mana does it cost a wizard to attack based on this if statement here? 3. Okay, so I asked the question, do I have at least 3 mana? If I have at least 3 mana, well, then I'll go ahead and charge myself 3 mana. That's the cost of doing a necromancer attack, or a wizard attack. And then I'll go ahead and return. What's this line here do? What am I accomplishing there? We should all be a lot better at reading code right now than writing it. Okay, so we should all be good at this. Go ahead. Okay. Okay, so what kind of value is this guy going to boil down to right here? What kind of value will this boil down to right here that I have highlighted? Cat, dog, number, string. Number. Okay, that's going to boil down. It's going to boil down to a number. Okay, what number? We wrote up here a magic user is going to be a number based on their intelligence, right? Their intelligence divided by either 3 or 4. So we're going to get some sort of base damage from a magic user, and then we're going to enhance that. So this is going to be some amount of damage that a magic user would do. Then we're going to add to that some random number between 2 and 4. And that's the damage this wizard will do. Make sense? Okay, so if I'm a wizard and I had at least 3 mana, I'm going to reduce my mana by 3. I'm going to look inside myself for my magic user-ness to get some damage, and then I'll add to it the extra powerful magic that a wizard might have, right? And I'll generate that number. All right, that's what a wizard's going to do. So let's go ahead and let's write for Necromancer. So we'll write get damage for Necromancer. And here, if you really want to say they're gonna, like you mentioned, that maybe they attack with their wand, here, we'll just do 1 damage. Okay? You probably could do a, nick them with a, crack them with a stick or something like that. Or, I mean, I suppose you can say if you just have kind of a wand, you could do like little tiny, pod shots, maybe do 1 to 3 damage or something. But I'm just gonna leave it at 1. Okay? They go melee style with their wand, just running up and swinging a stick. All right, so I'm just going to steal this code here. We'll go up to Necromancer and we'll modify this for what we decide a Necromancer should do. So a Necromancer for get damage. Now, Necromancer also has some mana, right? All right, let's say that for a Necromancer to attack with a spell, maybe they need a little bit more mana. So maybe we say it's going to cost 5 mana for a because a Necromancer has a pet with them, right? All right, so they have an extra helper next to them. So it's going to require a little bit more mana to do some base damage. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to say damage is equal to 0. So I'm going to start off. We're going to kind of collect damage as we go through these if statements. So I'm going to say if we have at least 5 mana, then we'll charge ourselves 5 mana. And we will say we want our damage to be equal to whatever our damage is currently equal to, plus we'll get our base damage from a magic user. And then, typically Necromancers, they don't do as much damage as a wizard would do. So we'll say maybe 1 to 3 extra damage. Okay, so if I'm a Necromancer and I had at least 5 mana, I'll charge myself 5 mana, and then I'm going to collect some damage into this variable called damage. And that damage will be my current damage plus my magic user-ness plus some random number between 1 and 3. All right. Now I can throw the else in here. I'll say else damage is equal to damage plus, I don't know, is a Necromancer, they kind of have like maybe a staff type thing, right? So they could hit a little harder. All right. So they'll hit for 2. But now, before we return a value here, we're going to go ahead and we want to throw in our pet damage. Okay. So I'll put a little comment here. Add pet damage. All right, so we'll say damage is equal to damage plus, and let's just do maybe a rand int, maybe 1 to 4, something like that. Okay, so your pet either grazes them or hits them with some level of force. All right, and then we'll return damage. So this guy starts off with 0 damage. If we have some mana, we add a good amount of damage. If we don't have some mana, we just add a little damage. And at the very end, we tack on some pet damage, ultimately returning the total amount of damage that the Necromancer brings to the table this particular call. Make sense what I'm doing there? Okay, you see how I'm kind of like changing up how each of these guys attacks just a little bit, just so we see some different twists on logic that we can throw in here? Okay, so that's how we're going to say a Necromancer attacks. All right, now we'll go up to a melee user. So for get damage for a melee user, Now, a melee user is probably going to base their damage on their strength as well, right? Okay, so we'll go ahead and get our base damage from our person. So we'll say, am I in melee user? Yep, so we'll say person.get damage, passing itself. So that's going to give me some number based on my strength. And then I'm going to add to it maybe some additional damage based on that kind of my strength needs to push a little harder. All right, so maybe I just do a randant 2 to 5, something like that. Just a little extra oomph behind, because I probably have a sword, right? Okay, so this is not just fists. This is just some extra damage from that sword. Still has my same strength behind it, but now I have a bladed weapon or a hammer, Thor style, something like that, right? Yeah, we don't have the magical hammer yet. So that I always like that move where it goes by somebody and comes back through them. Oh, that's a great one. Man, wouldn't it suck to get beat up that way? It's terrible, just demoralizing. But have somebody throw the hammer past you, and you think it missed me. And then it hits you from behind because he puts the hand in front of you because he's recalling the hammer, right? That's what Thor does. It's just a jerk move. It's just a jerk move. All right, so this is going to be our damage for a base melee user. Okay, now, so melee users hit a little harder. But now we need to go down to our warrior, who's going to hit even harder, potentially. Okay, so a warrior, steal this guy, steal from here. When he gets damaged, remember we decided a warrior has do these guys have energy or something? Yeah. Is that melee users have energy? Yes, they have energy. All right, so all melee users have energy. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask the question, if our energy maybe is greater than equal to, I don't know, 8? Because at this point, we're going to put kind of like a special attack behind our sword. We're a person, and then we're a melee user, so we're carrying something. But now we're a warrior, and if a warrior has enough built-up energy, they're going to put a little extra oomph behind even their normal melee attack. Kind of get where I'm going with this? All right, so if I have enough energy to do something special, I'll go ahead and subtract from my energy that cost. So we'll say it's going to be 8. I'm just randomly picking costs for these things, right? All right, so if I have enough extra energy where I can put a special attack behind my melee swing, then I'll go ahead and charge myself that energy. I'll go ahead and get my base damage from my melee user, but then I'm going to add some additional damage of maybe 3 to 5. Again, just picking numbers out of the sky here. Once we put them in the deathmatch cage with each other, and we see if for instance warriors always keep winning, we probably need to nerf them a little bit. So we're gonna kind of go through that idea of balancing our game a little bit to see if we can get somewhat of a randomized, because usually most video games there's kind of a circular balance, right? Where class A can beat class B, can beat class C, can beat class A, depending on their special set of skills. Certain guys are more powerful against other guys and that kind of stuff. But in our case right now, since we're not really using defense necessarily yet, we're stuck in this mode of probably the guy with the most hit points is probably going to win unless he artificially hits too softly or something like that. But we're going to fix that. All right, so that's a warrior. And he actually probably hits harder than, so a warrior who doesn't have a special attack will go ahead and just return melee user get damage, right? At that point, he's just dude with weapon, okay? Or lady with weapon, either way, okay? And they're hitting but not doing any sort of weird spin around move or extra oomph or anything, just got it? All right, so that's a warrior. We'll go ahead and steal this for Ninja. All right, so Ninja, let's say that in my mind, a Ninja is either going to do some like, they'll always do a little extra damage, you know, because the idea is they're like very trained in the way to hit you just right. Make sense? So in the default thing, they'll probably do a little bit more damage than your typical melee user. So we'll throw a randant, maybe 1 to 3 in there, just on top. They just hit a little bit more precisely anyways. Then we'll say if they have maybe enough energy, but we're going to say they can't do these special attacks too often, so we're going to say it costs them 10 to do a special attack. And I think, aren't we already kind of nerfing their, well, they actually have speed too. Probably need to base this on their speed. So we're not nerfing their energy, but they have at least 10 energy and self.speed is greater than or equal to, how much do they get? 15 to 25? Let's say 3. So if they have at least 10 energy and they have at least 3 speed left over, we're going to let them do some sort of awesome thing, right? So we'll charge them that 10 energy. We're also, so they have kind of 2 different currencies here. They have energy and they have speed. So we're going to charge them 10 for energy, and we're going to charge them, what did I say, 3 and 3 for speed? Okay, then we're going to do some damage. So we're going to go our melee damage. Now, the idea here is this is costly for a ninja, right? Okay, and this guy, you know, he's, you know, I don't know, built up that whole energy thing or something like that. So this is going to be a hit. So let's go ahead and let's add 5 to 8 extra damage on there. You do not want to be on the receiving end of this. This is the ninja version of the Thor hammer to the back of the head type thing. All right, so we're trying to artificially make sure this doesn't happen that often by charging them extra for it, and but if it happens, could be the turning point of the fight. Is kind of our idea here. We might need to go back and tweak these numbers, but that's the concept. Everybody with me on that? Okay, so that's what a ninja does for get damage. All right, so any questions about kind of what we've done here? We've tried to mix up our 4 different classes. You know, our ninja and our warrior, our necromancer and our wizard, each one kind of has its pros and cons. We're saying they're all equally squishy from a not using defense, and we're not taking armor or anything like that into consideration. It's just kind of winner take all, luck of the draw type thing. All right, so we need to now be able to take damage. Now, what does taking damage mean in a fight? So we got these four different combatants standing there. So what does taking damage mean? Okay, who has hit points? Everyone has hit points. So where do we need to write that function? Very top in person. All persons know how to take damage. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I only have to write that function one time. Because every one of these guys, a ninja is a melee user, where a melee user is a person, right? So every person knows how to take damage. So we'll have def take damage and get damage here. Needs to take in self as a parameter. That was a bug I had in my code here. So take damage is going to take in self and then an amount of damage. Actually, I'll spell this out. Damage, just so we don't confuse anything. All right, now they're going to go ahead and reduce their hit points. So self.hp is equal to self.hp minus whatever damage we just took. That makes sense? So now, by writing that one function right here, every single one of our combatant types knows how to take damage. Make sense? They all take damage in the same way right now. Their hit points go down. Now, some of the different guys, their hit points may have artificially been increased or something like that. You know, I think, didn't we make warriors a little bit tougher hit point wise, or melee users? Yeah. So melee users, we decided they were a little tougher from a hit point perspective. But bottom line is, when you take damage, it reduces your hit points. So that we do that at the very top. Go ahead.
Remember certain class daily users.
Yeah, but we're not using that yet. You're right. We kind of set it up to do that, where maybe if they have some armor or something, maybe it makes them a little bit harder to hit, or they reduce it a little bit. Yeah, you're 5 minutes ahead of us. We're good. All right, so that's going to be a person for take damage. Now, we also need to know when somebody kicks the bucket, right? Okay. Now, are all persons able to assess their? We'll just say they become unconscious, deadly unconscious, whatever. So a person can assess whether they're alive or not, right? So we'll have a little function here called def maybe is dead, and this should return true if they're dead and false if they're not. How do we know if somebody is dead? What does it mean for them to be dead? Go ahead. Less than or equal to 0, their hit points, right? So we'll return self.hp less than or equal to 0. This is a Boolean expression. What's a Boolean expression? Any expression that boils down to a single value of true or false. So this will boil down to true if their hit points are less than or equal to 0. That means they're dead. It is true they're dead. This will boil down to false if their hit points are not less than or equal to 0. It is false that they're dead. So we can walk up to any of our combatants, as long as they are a person, and say, are you dead? Make sense? Okay, we'll ask him, is dead? And he'll spit back true or false, and we take it from there, right? All right, so that's what is dead will do. All right, so now we can, I think only warriors had defense. That makes sense? All right, so if we go down to warrior, so we're going to say these guys are just a little bit more resilient to taking damage, right? So they had this this defense thing. So what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and create a slightly specialized version of take damage here. Okay, so for a warrior, take damage, we're going to have an amount of damage, but now we want to reduce that damage a little bit because they're a warrior. Now we gave them a defense between 10 and 20. Okay, now what we can do is, let's see, how do we reduce their damage based on that defense? How do I use that number? Huh? Yeah, but the defense is between 10 and 20. That we don't have any damage that's coming in that's going to be drastically higher than that. What do you think? Got an idea? Yeah. So if they have 10 defense, their first 10 hit points of damage is ignored. Something like that? Yeah, I like that. All right, so if self.defense is greater than or equal to the damage we're going to take, we'll go ahead and, let's see, shouldn't have to be greater than or equal to the damage we're going to take. It's really any amount of defense. So if their defense is currently 5 and they take 7 damage, we'll subtract 7 from it, giving us -2. So actually they still are going to take 2 damage, right? That's how much gets through. But then the next time around, we need to reset that -2 back to 0. Otherwise, they'll always You know, just build up. They took -2 damage last time, they take another 5, now they take -7 damage, and so on and so forth. How do we want to write that? I think we should still ask the question. If self.defense is greater than 0, if we still have some defense currency left, any amount of defense currency, okay, we'll go ahead and we're going to say self.defense is equal to self.defense minus damage. Okay. Now we want to ask an additional question. Is this guy less than 0 now? Because if it's less than 0 now, we actually need to take a little bit of damage. So if self.defense is less than 0 after I've taken some damage, then what do? I need to take the difference. So I will say, what is it, melee user? Melee user dot take damage. I'll pass it self, and I want to pass it self.defense. I'm -1. So if my defense was like a -2, if I just took 10 damage and I currently had 8 defense, I'm at -2. The amount of damage I'm actually going to take is 2. -2 times -1 is 2. That makes sense? All right. So if I have some defense, then I will subtract the amount of damage that I'm supposed to take from my defense. Now, if I had enough defense to cover all that damage, I'm not taking any damage this round. But if after I took that damage on my defense is less than 0, that means I need to take a little bit of that damage got through. And if a little bit of that damage got through, I'm going to go ahead and take some damage equal to whatever my current defense is, which is some negative number, times -1. That's the bit of defense that I took. Go ahead.
I think why 90 person that take damage. Take damage from the person.
Okay. You bring up a good point, but this will still work. Tell me why it'll work.
Oh, because it's a child.
Yeah.
Never mind.
No, it's a really, really good question. He says he thinks it should be person up here, right? That takes some damage, because we only wrote that inside of person. But melee users are persons. So they got their own version. They got their own copy of take damage. Therefore, he has that. He has that function. So you can decide whether or not that makes sense. I would probably write it this way, with the idea that just in case melee users take a specific kind of damage differently or something that we at some point in the future go and add that, we're just going to ask our parent to take some damage. And if he happens to just pass the buck to person, so be it. But otherwise, we're at least going up through our lineage. We're not skipping the idea of a melee user taking damage. That makes sense? Okay, but that's very, very, very much an object-oriented question. Understanding how we get things. Since persons have a take damage, anything that is a person gets that function. And only in this case with our warrior are we saying we're going to override our normal take damage function and give ourselves our own. Something a little bit more specific. Make sense? Okay, so if we have some defense, we'll go ahead and burn that currency as much as we can. If after we burn that currency, our defense is below 0, that means some of that damage got through, and we'll go ahead and take that damage by multiplying that defense, which is now a negative number, by -1, because that's what we're taking in an amount of damage that we're going to take into the guy above us. Now, the else here is we don't have any defense left. Our defense is not greater than 0. We're out of currency. And what does that mean? That means we take the full brunt. Melee user dot take damage self and then damage. If we have no defense currency left over, we're just passing that damage right on through and saying it hits us. All of it hits us. All right. Make sense? All right. Good idea with the treating defense as currency. I like that. All right. So I think everybody now knows how to. Can a ninja use their speed in some way to avoid some damage? He thinks so. Oh yeah, that's what ninjas do. In fact, they should gain hit points. It's like self-heal. All right, so if we're gonna notice that for like wizards and necromancers, these guys just take full, just everything. In fact, probably for a wizard, we should just multiply damage by like 1.1. Like, look, you're out here in underwear. So actually, the ninjas are out here in underwear, but they're fast. The wizards are just out there in robes, and they're not necessarily fast. They're actually frail. All right, so for a ninja, we'll give him a special version of take damage. He doesn't have defense, he has speed. How do we, I don't think we should just use the speed directly like a currency. Like we want to differentiate this from how warriors work a little bit. So how do we use speed for ninjas? Anybody have an idea? Go ahead.
Maybe like set up a number and like track speed from that number, and then that number you can take like a random and with this number you like avoid all damage.
Ah, so give it like a point. So yeah, so we're kind of rolling the dice based on his speed. What we can do is we can just generate a random number between 15 and 25. And if that happens to be equal to his speed, he avoids all damage. So that we're just giving them a chance of dodging effectively, right? Yeah, that's not bad. All right, we'll leave the else in there because the else is the same thing. So what we'll go ahead and do is we'll say chance to dodge is equal to randint 15 to 25. So the exact same random number we rolled up here, but a different, a different one. Go ahead. Yeah.
Wouldn't like the chance to dodge be the same no matter what you take for like speed?
Yeah. So really, this should be like should dodge. Just name that. Well, so what I'm going to do is this: we're going to generate a number between 15 and 25, which is going to be potentially the identical number to their speed. Potentially, right? So there's 10 numbers that'll come out of that, right? And if the number we rolled there matches their speed, we dodge. So we have a 10% chance effectively of dodging each time, but it's based on a dice roll. We're not giving them a random speed each time. We're giving them one speed. So we're not actually using speed. The dodge aspect of speed, we're not, what their speed is isn't really important for the dodge. It probably should be, but let's keep it simple and just say it isn't important. We are still using speed as part of their currency. So as they burn speed, well, that could potentially hurt them. As they burn speed here, they are moving out of the range of potentially being able to dodge. I don't know if that sounds right. That doesn't seem right. Yeah, so this is going to give us some number between 15 and 25. So now we want to somehow compare our speed to that to decide if we dodge or not. How do we do that? Got an idea? Go ahead.
What if we made another variable equal to the initial speed, and then that wouldn't have anything?
Okay. So he wants to have our real speed, which is going to be our currency for stuff, and then have a self dot orig speed, and this is equal to self dot speed initially. So right off the bat, when we build a ninja, we're getting him a random number for speed, but then we're also remembering what that number was, because we are reducing speed down here, but we never reduce a ridge speed. So now we can say should dodge is equal to random int 15 to 25 if that equals self dot orig speed, like that. So if we roll a number between 15 and 25 and it happens to match up to our original speed, we dodge. Sound fair? And this value, orig speed, never changes. That's the original speed value we had before we started reducing speed inside here with our special move. Okay, so this gives us a value of should dodge. So we'll say if not should dodge. Actually, let's just, we'll give a little output here. That'll be a good one. So don't we have a name, right? So we'll do an F string. We'll say ninja self dot name, because we did take in names, right? Rolls out of the way. Something like that. Else we'll just take normal damage. Right, so take damage for a ninja is going to say, we'll generate a number between 15 and 25. We're going to compare that to our original speed. If it happens to match, then we will dodge. So we give ourselves a 10% chance of dodging all blows. If we should dodge, if that guy's true, we'll print out ninja, whatever the guy's name was, rolls out of the way, avoiding all damage, something like that. Else, he'll take some damage. Make sense? Okay, so that's our take damage there. Now, what we can do here is up at the person level for take damage, we're always using take damage from person in all of these guys, aren't we? So we go to warrior, take damage, eventually uses take damage from higher up. This guy eventually uses take damage from higher up. So what we can do inside of take damage up here is we can personalize this for the type of guy that the damage was taken. So we can either write it here with a bunch of if statements. Remember we had, what was it called? Is instance? What it was called? Is instance. So we have an is instance function where we can ask what kind of guy are you? Or we can write this into each individual class and give them that ability. So one thing I can do is I can say if is instance, it's like that, right? Self and then the type of class. Ninja, like that. If that's true, if this particular guy is a ninja, we probably want to have some sort of statement that says he took some damage for some amount. So we'll print I'm going to do this beforehand. I'm going to say print we'll print their name. Now it's going to be all on the same line. So actually, instead of printing it, let's do this. Output string is equal to the F string self.name. We'll actually just start it off as self.name. We don't need an F string there. And then if they're a ninja, we'll say output string is equal to output string concatenated with the F string, and we'll say space the ninja, something like that. Let's keep this relatively simple for right now. We'll do an elif. This guy is actually a Necromancer. elif. He's a warrior. elif. He's a wizard. All right, so we're kind of building up an output string. We're going to say Mike the Ninja, or Mike the Necromancer, or Mike the Warrior, or Mike the Wizard, depending on what kind of guy this was. Then we'll say output string is equal to output string concatenated with the F string. Takes damage, something like that. Make sense? All right, then in the end, we'll go ahead and print output string. So when a person takes damage, we pass it the amount of damage, we reduce their hit points, we start building an output string by starting it with their name. If they were a ninja, we tack on the ninja. If they were a necromancer, we tack on the necromancer. If they were a warrior, we tack on the warrior. If they were a wizard, we tack on the wizard. Then we tack on the amount of damage they took. Now we could ask the question, are they dead? If self dot is dead, output string is equal to output string plus F string and is now dead. Else, output string is equal to output string concatenated with the F string and has self.hp, HP left. Something like that. So if he's dead, we say he's dead. If he is not dead, we'll print out how many hit points he has left. And ultimately, we print out output string. So all this stuff right here is just all about what we're going to display to the user after this guy gets hit. We're just building up a string with a formatted string and then printing it at the very end. Make sense what I'm doing there? So several lines of code that really aren't doing horribly complex stuff. They're just, we're building kind of a narrative of what just happened. All right. Questions about that? Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so that prints out the, kind of identifies which classes they are, and then prints out whether they're dead or not based on the damage.
Yeah, so here we can go ahead and test this real quick. So we have a ninja, a warrior, a wizard, and a necromancer, and we'll go ahead and say a a ninja dot take damage from a warrior dot get damage. Then we'll say a warrior dot take damage from a ninja dot get damage. So we'll just go ahead and have our ninja hit our warrior, or have our warrior hit our ninja, then our ninja hit our warrior, just to get some output from this guy. And we'll go ahead and run this. Let's see what little bugs we introduced here. All right. Oh. Get damage for who? All right, so we wrote get damage from one of these guys to take no arguments. Yep, this guy right here. This guy takes an amount of damage. Actually, hold on. That's not get damage. Get damage. Oh, it needs to take in self. Get damage needs to take in self. All these guys need to take in self for their get damage. Since we copied that all the time, so all of them were broken because we copied from the original. Okay, make sure this is saved. All right. So this is, oh, when we call melee user get damage, we need to pass that self on. So, same bug, just throughout. Get all of them there. That is line 125. We have a capital I instead of our lowercase I for randint. All right, same thing with line 136, 125. Oh, we have randint multiple places. Let's just do rand int. And we'll replace with rand int, all lowercase. It is all lowercase, isn't it? Just make sure that's this. And then we have a warrior get damage. Oh, yeah. So then our self dot is dead up here. We don't need to pass in self to because it's inside the same function. Where's my call? Take damage. If is dead. It's a local function, so we don't need to pass in self. All right. So there we have Mike the Ninja takes 14 damage and has 13 hit points left. We have the other guy go too. Oh, he didn't take damage because of his defense. So we probably need to say like absorb some damage or something like that, but we're already out of time. So for your homework, so this works now, right? Our warrior, we had no output from our warrior because his defense absorbed the ninja's attack, whatever it was. Okay, so for your homework, we want to create a object that has 4 of our guys enter a ring and attack each other until somebody is the only one left standing. And then we'll display who is the winner. So we want to see who's the strongest, ninjas, warriors, wizards, or necromancers in our current model. That make sense? Okay, so I'll word it inside the homework assignment, and we'll go from there. All right, I'll see everybody on Wednesday, and I'll put this code up. Yep.
I will not be here Wednesday.
Okay.
We're in Ohio for the NCAA.
Okay. So you'll still do the homework?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And for those of you I'm meeting in the CAF to talk about your project right now, I already have a table in there with my blue backpack sitting at the table. You're not. I'm meeting some other students to talk about their project. I was just telling them where my bag was in the CAF. Unrelated to this class. Yep. Nope. You're good.